Today we're going to learn how to use the pen tool all on Affinity Photo 2 on the iPad. If the pen is mightier than the sword, then the Apple Pencil is mightier than the mouse, trackpad, Wacom stylus, and whatever else things you might cut out on the computer. This here, Apple Pencil, Affinity Photo 2, the pen tool, when you put these things together, it's magic. There, I said it. It's absolutely brilliant. In my whole design career, there's nothing more enjoyable I found than cutting out subjects with Affinity Photo, or as the case is now, Affinity Photo 2 and the Apple Pencil on the iPad. It's amazing. In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to use the pen tool, how to use it with the Apple Pencil, and there's going to be another accessory that makes an appearance too, so stay tuned for that. So let's get into it. So here we are in Affinity Photo 2 on the iPad, and this of course is Iron Man. This is an image I've simply grabbed from the internet. I typed Iron Man into Google Chrome, searched for images, and I looked for a pretty high res one and one that looked quite cool, and I came across this one, and I'll link to where I found it in the description below. And before we start, if you watched my last video, you might say, Andrew, could we use the Smart Selection brush on this image? And we could use the Smart Selection brush. The Smart Selection brush, we can simply just go into it here and see in the background is fairly good or fairly consistent. We might get away with it. And I know this isn't the purposes for the video, but very quickly you can see the Smart Selection brush is making selections where we don't want selections. We could subtract this, bring this down, and again, if you haven't watched the video beforehand, watch it because it's a pretty good introduction into the Smart Selection brush. And I'm just doing this very quickly, and I'll maybe make a point of why we're not using it in this. I'll just go to Refined Edge, and I'll maybe just try to clean up Iron Man there, and I'll try to clean up Iron Man there, and maybe here a wee bit. So very quickly, that's overlay, that's the black matte, white matte, and you can see here, even though overlay, it looks quite good, black matte looks quite good on a white background, transparent, but when we go into the black and white mode, you can see some of the fingers here aren't looking great. This part's not great. The side of the face, some of the parts aren't bad, and some of the parts are a wee bit see-through. And if you know anything about masks, black means we're completely removing the background. White means we're keeping it. And if it's grey like this, it means it'll kind of go see-through a wee bit. And you can maybe see it here a wee bit. So I'm just going to exit out of that. We could use Smart Selection brush. And yes, I haven't done a great job and I could have spent more time. I'm just going to click on the marquee tool and then click out of that just to get rid of the dots. And if I do two fingers, you can also go up to the selections box here and click deselect. And that will also get rid of our selection. So we could use the Smart Selection brush, and that's okay. Maybe I want to do something very quickly. I just want to remove the background and put it into a presentation or something that I don't really care about or takes very little time or a quick print out. But if you know me, there's no middle ground. There's no, we try to do things to the best of our ability. And for something like this, I would use the pen tool. The pen tool here on the left-hand side. It gives us a lot greater power of getting into all these bits and to making sure we leave absolutely nothing out. And as I said in the introduction, part of the reason why I got the iPad Pro and even the bigger version of the iPad Pro and the Apple Pencil is for work like this. This is how I cut out everything. Sometimes for my full-time job, I need to go onto Photoshop and do Photoshop work, and that's great. The company pay for my Photoshop, so that's not bad. But even if I'm doing Photoshop work and I need to cut something out, I used to have a Wacom stylus and I used to cut things out in Photoshop. Those days are gone. I don't use the trackpad. I don't use a mouse or nothing like that. I bring images in to Affinity Photo. Used to be Affinity Photo, now Affinity Photo 2 on the iPad, and I cut it out using Affinity Photo 2 and the Apple Pencil, and it's an absolute dream. Not to sound a bit sad, but this is how I cut out everything now. Anything I need cut out to good detail, to good precision, this is how I do it. So I'm going to show you. So we've clicked into our pen. You can see a new slider coming up here, and this is just for the stroke. So if I want to do points, you can see a black outline now forming, and I can bring this up or I can bring it right down. For the purposes of cutting out, I never use a colored stroke, and you can go into the stroke here and change it to red or white or whatever color you want, but I always keep that at 0 so I can see the lines. I'll just do two fingers to undo all this. So we're not going to use that, and the stuff up here we'll not worry about at the minute. We're going to get nice and close, and we'll start off the canvas and just click a dot with your pencil or pen. And I'm going to undo that because I always come in just ever so slightly, nearly a pixel or two. You can see I'm cutting into the image, and there's a reason why I'm doing that. And you maybe seem to do a mistake. 2 fingers will undo, 3 fingers on the screen will redo, and it's maybe a wee bit hard because this outline is quite similar to the background here, and it's maybe hard on YouTube to pick this up, but I'm just simply clicking and dragging. 2 fingers will move the screen, and I'm going to get rid of this wee studio so I have more space. And again, I'm just clicking and dragging, and what that's doing, if I do 2 fingers, if I click on a point and drag, that'll bring up these handles, so I can move these handles so we can do more curvier curves. Curvier curves, is that the right word? And when we get to a point like this, if we just move it, we don't want to move it too much because then that will affect the next curve, as you can see there. So if I do quite a big point like this, and then I want to do a wee fine point, it's going to go way off, and we'll have to change this handle. And if you do want to change the handle, you can click on the pen tool, click on node, and then you just grab these nodes, and that gives you a lot more control over what to do. And you can even click on this white dot now. So if you've made a mistake, maybe down here, I'm not too happy with this position, we can click the nodes and scroll on down. I think all the other nodes I'm happy enough. There's maybe this one here could be a little bit neater, and that's all looking grand. So that's how we click and change nodes. And then if you want to go back, just tap on the pen tool again, and away we go. And you can see I'll have to go back into node here because that one there is not looking too sharp. And normally you don't need to do that too much at all. It's just because I'm using this as an example and kind of mucking around a wee bit. And you can really be 2 fingers to undo. You can really be as precise or as quick as you want. And yes, it's definitely longer than using the smart selection brush, but you get complete control on what you're cutting out. And if you're wondering, could you do this with hair? Well, maybe in my next video I might talk about that. Quick answer is yes, but I don't do it. And I'll maybe show you in my next video how I might combine the 2 tools. So zooming out because I'm just not too sure where we're at. And this is looking good so far. Seeing this is a wee bit bright. And I like getting in really close. You can go in silly close. And sometimes like this, you'll see what's happening. My dots have disappeared. It's because the pen tool's not selected. So as soon as you select the pen tool again, we should be good to go. And you see here, there's a bit of a sharp angle. If I want to make a sharp angle, if I hold one finger and click, I can make that a sharp point. And if I hold down, you can actually, so that's making it, I know this is just for teaching purposes, but you can see I'm making sharp points, 2 fingers to undo that. And that's just a wee gesture, which is quite handy to use if there's a sharp angle to use. Even like this, I'll maybe just make that bit a wee bit sharp, and I'll undo that because I'm going inside the lines ever so slightly. Or it's going outside the lines there. And another point on gestures, so that's 1 finger to make sharp edges, 2 fingers to undo. And a while ago we were talking about nodes. Say I zoom in and make a mistake, that's too far out. Instead of undoing and then redoing, say, click up here. Yes, I can go to the pen tool, I can go to the node and move that back into position. Clicking the pen tool and away we go again. But there's a quicker way to do that. Hold 2 fingers down I'll be able to select this node now and move it around. And in fact, any nodes with 2 fingers held down, I can select and then change the handles also. So that's a better tip than what I showed you just a few moments ago of going back to the node and changing this node. We can do it that way, but the better way would be to hold 2 fingers and to bring that down. That is super. Another thing we can do, so we'll come up here, we'll do a sharp angle there. Another thing we can do is with 2 fingers, if we hit these wee handles, they will go in 45 degrees angles. So sometimes that's useful with 2 fingers. With 1 finger, it then breaks these handles. So we can change this handle by itself, or by clicking on this, we'll get them both back. So again, two fingers, and we'll 2 fingers, and we'll just move these round. 1 finger separate, and then if we want, just click on it, and 2 fingers will do that. Let me move that up a wee bit. So that's just a quick wee bit on gestures. And sometimes it's nice to rotate the canvas. So we can zoom in and out. If you pinch, you zoom in and out in Affinity Photo, 2 fingers will move your way around the canvas. But what I like to do is rotate the canvas now. That's how you rotate the canvas, but currently rotates off. If you want to know how to rotate, and this is really handy because you could move the iPad around, but in a case like this, I just want to be able to rotate it so I can continue going. And if we hit back, if we go down to preferences here and tap it, and then down to tools, you'll see allow canvas rotation in all tools. If we just check that on, hit done, go back into our Iron Man project. Now with 2 fingers, we can rotate it, and we can actually rotate and zoom out or zoom in at the same time. And it's a lot of fun. And when you're coming from the desktop, this is just an absolute joy, just to get in there, to get things turned around, and it's absolutely brilliant. So we'll click back in our pen tool, and now with the ability to rotate around, it just makes things much easier. 1 finger just for some sharp angles. And the great thing about rotating it is now we don't need to rotate, and I'm going around this fairly quick. And in a second or two, and sometimes being left-handed, my hand will hit one of the icons along here and it'll deselect it. It's hit the arrow, so I need to select the pen tool again. And that's why normally when doing work like this, I have a wee glove like that. Looks a wee bit strange. It's a glove with only 2 fingers and there's a gap here. If I put it on, the logo's here. So really, I suppose it's for right-handed people, but I am, of course, left-handed. So I just flip it around, put it on. It does look strange. Doesn't keep you warm in the winter, so don't walk about like this. You'll get strange looks or stranger looks, but it does the purpose because it means that I'm rubbing the screen now and it's not affecting it, whereas I'll just do it for this purposes. You can see now I'm affecting all sorts of things. 2 fingers to undo, 2 fingers to undo. And this here is great, so I can rub the screen away, which I don't want to do, although it does clean it. But that's not the purpose of the glove. The purpose of the glove is when you're holding your Apple Pencil, you won't hit these icons. Look at that, I'm mucking about here, and it's not affecting the icons. And it's a great thing to do whether you're left-handed or right-handed, because even if you're right-handed, you could still hit these studios and different buttons. And certainly when I'm using, oh, I've made a mistake there, 2 fingers to undo. When I am using the pen tool, It's absolutely fantastic. And now I'm going very quick because I know time is precious and you just don't want to see me cutting out all these things. And again, I'll zoom out and I'll bring it back to rotation, because look, we're only at his hand, Andrew. Come on, we'll speed this up in a second. Before I do, I'll just simply show you these bits, because for something like this, you can click your pencil and hold, and then that really smooths this, or makes this a lot rounder, and you can get round this bit a whole lot better just by clicking and dragging. And again, we're having a lot of power. Let me undo that. And we'll maybe just do his helmet before, but maybe just do his mask. And again, just click and drag, and the longer you drag these dots, the more then when you go, the more rounded this line gets. And again, up here, we could even just click to the top of his mask, bring it round, and then when we click here without doing anything, it kind of follows the line round a bit better, and it makes it more circular. And again, down here, and really it's just practice. The pen tool, you'll get better and better the more things you cut out. And some people might find it a bit tedious, but normally what I do, but normally I enjoy it. I'll listen to a bit of music or a podcast or an audiobook, and that just makes it even more enjoyable. Or you could even talk to your wife or husband, depending if you're doing this in the living room. You can do that too, because it's if you can multitask in that way. So here we are, we're back. And just to close off the path, I'm going to connect it to the first dot we made. Doesn't matter if this doesn't look neat or tidy. We can even just do something mad like this. It's off screen. It doesn't really matter as long as it gets back to the end point. And that is our, not selection made, but our cutout made. You can go in at this stage, and again with 2 fingers we can move any nodes, or if you prefer this way, going into the node and changing it and moving some of the handles. Just sometimes I zoom in and with 2 fingers just look to make sure I'm completely happy with it. And there's a few wee things I'm noticing that would maybe change or neaten up a little bit more. Look at this, 2 fingers, I'll maybe just neaten this up ever so slightly like that, and I'd maybe spend more time, but at some point you have to say, right, enough's enough. And to make a selection is different, quite a bit different actually, compared to Affinity Photo 1. So we're on the node mode. We'll go back to the pen mode, and again you can make the stroke now, and that's okay. We've already talked about that. We don't want to do that. What we want to do is hit this icon. That's mask. If we hit mask, it'll mask it out, and that's okay. The only thing about that is it will leave us with a very, very sharp edge. And you might think, Andrew, I'm happy enough with a sharp edge, but you'd be wrong. Or in some instances, you might want a sharp edge, but certainly for compositing, a feathered edge looks much, much better. And it'll just blend your subject into the background. Maybe if you're cutting out a cartoon or something like that, you want a razor sharp edge, just mask it out. I'm going to do two fingers to undo, because what we want is a feathered edge, and we're going to hit the selection button there. So it's now selected, and this is quite different now from Affinity Photo 1, because normally you do some of this in selections, persona, and go back in the photo and a lot of messing about. But what's great is we don't need to touch personas now or really worry about it too much. And we've got this wee icon up here. We've got this selections box here. There's a few things we can do. Down here is feather selection. There's many other things we can do. We can deselect it, select all. What else we do? Invert selection, which means we're grabbing the clouds and the background. But the 2 things I normally like to do is sometimes grow and shrink. So if I hit grow and shrink out of curiosity, what's great is we can grow our selection up a wee bit, or better again, we can bring it in a wee bit. Now that's too far in, and sometimes it's hard to get the sweet spot with this here, but by just clicking at the very top here into our pixels, then we can click one, or we'll go back, we'll click -1, and that'll just bring it down -1. So even if at the start I had made a mistake, and sometimes I try to bring it in a pixel or two, but say I had made a mistake and went right round the edge, I can then just bring it in 1 pixel, and I'll maybe do that on this occasion, but always remember to hit apply, to tick the tick box, hit apply. That's now shrunk it. If we go back to the selection, the next thing I want to do is feather selection, and again we can go wild and move this up, and that'll just make it into a circle. We don't want even. Again, it's very picky. Normally I want about 1 or 2, sometimes 1.5, just to feather it, 1.5 pixels. And again, if I hit the selection, that's now applied the feather. And the last thing I want to do is go onto the layer studio here. There's a few ways of doing this, but if I click plus, mask layer, it's now been masked. We'll remove our selection by clicking up here, deselect. And if we go in, you can just see it's just ever so slightly feathered it out, and that will just blend it into the background much better. And what we'll maybe do is bring an image in. So I'll just go and grab an image now. I'm just looking for a picture of New York, because that's where I think Iron Man might be at the minute. And I know this probably won't look too great, but it's just to give you a bit of an idea. Let's see, just something very quickly, Andrew. Again, the great thing about Unsplash is you can use these images and they're not copyright protection. And I'm just kind of looking at an image, and would spend much more time than this on it normally. And I'll maybe just choose this image very quickly. It's maybe not exactly what I'm looking for, but I'm just going to download it. I'm then going to go back into Affinity Photo, drag up files from the dock and put it here on the right hand side. Just simply drag this image on. It's made it way too big. If we go into our layers, hold down this layer, bring it to the bottom. Sometimes it can be a wee bit fiddly. And if I click on this layer and bring it up, you can see the lighting's not right at all. This is more, was it dusk probably? And Iron Man's more lit up. So I'm really not too happy about this image at all, because it looks as if it's a brighter day, and we'll maybe talk about color and matching things at a different time. Just very quickly, I'll try to color match this. We'll go into our adjustments, and we'll maybe just very quickly go to brightness up a wee bit. That's looking a bit better. I know we're losing some detail in the sky. And if we go into our filter studio, I'm going over this very quick, and we'll probably come to this at another time. I'm just going to go to Gaussian blur. Yes, I'm still sorry on the brightness. Even though I've made the brightness, I haven't hit apply. So we've applied that. And now we've applied that, we'll go back to the layer studio. We'll click the layer, the background layer. We'll click on our filters. We'll go to blurs, Gaussian blur, and we'll look at this in more detail, but we'll just bring this up just a little. So that's what it was. Obviously we don't want it too blurry, just up just enough, and remember to apply it. And that's not looking bad. I know I wasn't happy with the background, but just with it, that was very quick, brightening up the background, blurring it out just a little so it's not pin sharp. And you can see what the brightness and contrast did by turning it on and off. And that doesn't look bad. And the point of that was just by feathering the edges, it just for composing, it just brings this in a little bit more. And you can actually see here the lights not following through. If I was doing this for real, I would make light streaks kind of come out here just so it goes over the edge, so it kind of blends in better. And you can probably, yeah, you can see it much better here. It's quite a sharp edge there. That light's changing the color of Iron Man, but not affecting the background. In the real world, when you're talking about Marvel, quote unquote, the light would be shining past Iron Man and affecting this bit. And I would probably do something here and make that that light come out here. But the purpose of that was just really just to say feathering it. It just does a great job of blending it into the background better. A harsh edge, Iron Man would just look too fake. It might look fake already, and with a bit of time would work on this and make it look better, probably a better image. But yeah, I'm happy we've done quite a bit today. We've looked at the pen tool, at gestures. We've found out about my weird glove thing, which I'll maybe review in the next video just a wee bit better. And there will be a link in the description below, an Amazon link of where you can get this glove yourself. And maybe in the next video, in the next few videos, I'll do a review of that, just going a wee bit more in depth. And I think that'll do us for today. Thank you. So there you have it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you're as excited as I am about using the Apple Pencil and Affinity Photo 2 to cut out subjects. And try it for yourself. I think you'll find it really enjoyable and you'll really be impressed with the results. And if you found any value in this video, please give it a like. I'd appreciate that. Please subscribe, as there's going to be lots more videos coming out in Affinity Photo 2 soon. And as always, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.